This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. CBS News has exclusive details tonight of a possible espionage coup by the Soviets. It involves some of this nation's most sensitive nuclear missile secrets. The top secret nose cone of a long-range U.S. nuclear missile is missing. The missile was test-fired in 1987 from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base into South Pacific waters off the Marshall Islands. U.S. officials suspect the Soviets violated the waters of the U.S. friend, sneaked in, snatched, and made off with the nose cone. CBS News Defense Department correspondent David Martin and reporter-producer Howard Rosenberg have been investigating this story for weeks and have this exclusive report.
The Pentagon is investigating the loss of a flight data recorder from a test shot of an intercontinental ballistic missile. And officials here acknowledge one possibility is that the Soviets stole it.
July 7th, 1987. A Minuteman ICBM blasts off from California on a routine test shot like this over the Pacific. In its nose, a dummy warhead and a package of instruments to collect test data. The data is recorded on board instead of beamed back to Earth, so it can't be intercepted by a Soviet intelligence trawler, which on this day is located about 50 miles from the missile's target, the lagoon at Kwajalein. 30 minutes later, the warhead splashes down, breaking into pieces. Radar pinpoints the splashdown point within 50 to 100 feet. The next morning, 400 pounds of debris are recovered from the bottom of the lagoon and shipped back to the U.S. for analysis.
45 days later, officials at Kwajalein are notified. The instrument package is missing. 4 more searches of the bottom turn up nothing. Pentagon officials say there are 2 likely possibilities. One, that the flight recorder was in fact recovered during the first search of the bottom and somehow lost in the mail when it was shipped back to the U.S.
2, that the Soviets sent a mini-submarine into the lagoon and picked it up before the Americans got there. An espionage coup that would give the Soviets valuable intelligence on one of this country's frontline strategic missiles. Although no one saw or detected a Soviet mini-sub stealing the flight recorder, at least one internal report by the Defense Intelligence Agency concluded that is what happened. Other Pentagon officials say there is strong circumstantial evidence of Soviet intrusions along the string of uninhabited islands which ring the lagoon at Kwajalein. A Soviet sailor's cap, a vodka bottle, a can of insect repellent, and an electrical junction box, all with Russian markings, were found on the islands. Somebody had to put them there. And somebody had to build this lean-to, complete with an antenna strung through the rafters. That somebody may have been a Caucasian spotted by a local policeman on what is supposed to be an uninhabited island. The man fled. Another policeman spotted the running lights of a ship negotiating this narrow passage into the lagoon under cover of darkness. His description of the lights matched those of a Soviet Whiskey-class submarine, the same kind which ran aground outside a Swedish naval base. Given that evidence, a draft report by the Defense Intelligence Agency concluded it is, quote, probable Soviets have been on the islands.
The Pentagon is considering sending in commandos of its own in an attempt to capture the suspected intruders. But that will not find the missing flight recorder. Either it is lost forever, or the Soviets have it. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
In Virginia, retired U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer Craig Kunkel was arrested today. Charges that Kunkel attempted to sell top-secret details of U.S. anti-submarine warfare tactics to the Soviets. FBI officials say no secrets were actually passed to the Soviets, that Kunkel was caught in a sting operation by a U.S. agent posing as a Soviet spy. Bipartisan unity on Capitol Hill today was actually a kind of bipartisan outrage. Republicans as well as Democrats expressed shock and anger at what many of them see as President Reagan's bungled mismanagement of deregulation in the savings and loan industry. 200 thrift institutions collapsed last year alone, with fast operators making off with billions of dollars. Critics charged taxpayers' money was thrown away, while profiteers were allowed to practically rape the industry at will. Bob Schieffer begins our coverage.
Had no background in this industry.
Congress hasn't been this mad in years. Republicans and Democrats alike say the Federal Home Loan Bank Board has wasted billions of dollars in its attempt to bail out the savings and loan industry, and they called recent actions a backdoor raid on the Treasury.
They have robbed you blind, and the duty of this Congress is to keep the thievery to a minimum.
It is the biggest giveaway I have seen in the federal government since I have been here.
The committee is zeroing in on more than $16 billion the board pumped into 75 ailing institutions in December. Danny Wohl, who heads the board, says that was cheaper than what the government would owe if the S&Ls went broke and the government had to pay off federal insurance on depositor accounts.
We see that we have done what was appropriate to be done under the law within the assignment, the responsibilities that have been laid out by this committee.
Fueling the firestorm, the administration released a report suggesting a cutback in the amount of federal insurance carried on deposits. The idea being that would make depositors more careful where they put their money, and that in turn would force banking reforms.
So it's the reform that's critical as well as the money.
That raised already hot tempers to the boiling point.
There are other ways and much better ways to skin the cat, and I am appalled at the timing of the administration. In the middle of a crisis, to come out and say they eventually hope to reduce the amount of insurance.
Within an hour, the administration was forced to withdraw the idea. Treasury Secretary Brady issuing a statement that curtailing deposit insurance is not an option and will not be considered. Meantime, the hearing stretched to 6 hours without a break and with no agreement on what ought to be done.
This committee hearing is not just, this one is very much like an insomnia clinic. Right. I mean, where in the hell have we been for 3.5 years?
The answer, of course, is right here, but with the dimensions of this problem now becoming known, it may be nightmares rather than insomnia that will plague the new administration as it tries to deal with it. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The controversy revolves not just around savings and loans that made unwise, bad, and sometimes fraudulent loans that could cost taxpayers $100 billion in bailout money. There's also controversy, plenty of it, over the regulators' method of handling the bailout.
They are very much tax shelters. I mean, I think that's the primary motivation of doing the deal is tax shelter.
Ford Motor Company's acquiring 4 thrifts. Result for the nation's most profitable car company, says one expert, an estimated $3 billion in tax breaks.
One could speculate that Ford would not have to pay any taxes over the next few years because of the huge volume of tax credits that are available to it in these deals.
Ronald Perlman heads Revlon, the cosmetics company. To acquire First Texas and other thrifts, he's putting up just $315 million. In return, he gets more than $5 billion in government aid, every penny of it tax-free. The thrift's losses can be applied against Revlon's profits. Estimated tax saving for Revlon, $800 million. And if the sour loans on the thrift's books stay that way, no problem, Uncle Sam picks up the bill.
They're in a no-lose situation. They are going to make money no matter what.
Government regulators ran out of money to close thrifts. So to protect depositors, they've had to make generous deals, often with corporate raiders and smart money entrepreneurs. Critics say, though, that they're often throwing good money after bad, rescuing thrifts that are the walking dead and could cost taxpayers more to save than to bury.
But in the long run, it will come from the taxpayer, whether as taxpayer or consumer. It will come from the public because there's no other source for the money.
Congress today was doing the grilling, but it's not blameless. Both Congress and the administration stalled on heading off this crisis, a stall that's costing taxpayers around $15 billion a year. Dan?
Thanks, Ray. The Labor Department today announced a Chicago bank charged with racial and sex discrimination has agreed to pay $14 million in back pay. That is reportedly the largest such settlement ever obtained by the government from a single employer. Harris Trust and Savings refused to concede that it had discriminated, but said it wanted to settle the charges. A spokesman estimated 5,000 people could share in the award. Harris also agreed to revise its affirmative action policies. Now, still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, Frank Courier on the good news and bad news of the new cars. And James Hattori on whether the Super Collider is headed for a super collision with the dreaded Texas fire ants.
Guess what? There's no bathroom on the bus.
Relax.
But diarrhea usually comes back.
Took the Imodium AD, didn't you?
Yeah, but just a little cup.
Perfect.
New Imodium AD often stops diarrhea with one dose, instead of all those spoonfuls you may need of the leading remedy.
I'm in a rest stop.
You coming?
Nope, I'm fine.
New Imodium AD. It can make your first attack of diarrhea your last.
Nice to have a good friend meet me at the airport. My new Regal. It's a car I can trust. The way GM makes these new ones, reliable, dependable, gives me the peace of mind I need. So take me home, friend.
GM is the only American car maker to offer a bumper-to-bumper warranty for 3 years or 50,000 miles on every model.
Maybe you missed the article about Oat Bran in USA Today. Maybe you turned right past the one in Newsweek. And maybe all the other articles about Oat Bran somehow escaped your attention. But if you'd like to know how Oat Bran can be important to your health, here's something you should read. A box of Kellogg's Common Sense Oat Bran, with more Oat Bran than any leading ready-to-eat cereal. New Common Sense Oat Bran, a sensible thing to do.
British officials say 4 experts from Czechoslovakia are due in Britain tomorrow to try to help analyze the explosive that destroyed Pan Am Flight 103. It's suspected to be Semtex. That's a high-powered plastic explosive made in Czechoslovakia and reportedly used by terrorist groups. The U.S. government today named the Abu Nidal organization as, quote, the most dangerous terrorist group in existence. That's a quote from a kind of directory of world terrorism published today in Washington. Terrence Smith has our report.
Pan Am Flight 103 bomb, 270 dead, terrorism suspected. Rome and Vienna airports, terrorists kill 16. Brighton, England, terrorists bomb a hotel, narrowly missing Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. There's increasing frustration about how to stem the rising tide of terrorism. But today, in an effort to raise public awareness, the Pentagon produced a first, a 130-page who's who of the world's most dangerous terrorist organizations.
I hope that it will be helpful to the general public to be able to see exactly what these different entities are, which are so often referred to in ways that are confusing.
The key to combating terrorism is education or consciousness raising among our own people of how insidious and important it is and how it will threaten us for a long time.
The book profiles well-known groups like the Abu Nidal organization, spelling out estimated membership, headquarters, political objectives, likely targets, and listing the incidents they've been responsible for. It also lists lesser-known groups like the Tamil Liberation Tigers in Sri Lanka and the Tupamaro guerrillas in Peru. Yasser Arafat's Fatah movement is also included, despite the PLO leader's recent renunciation of terrorism.
We are waiting for Mr. Arafat to make good on the declarations that he has made with regard to his position.
The Pentagon is producing 45,000 copies for worldwide distribution to U.S. embassies, military installations, universities, libraries, and for sale to the general public. The cost, $71,000. Cheap by Pentagon standards, and few are likely to question the value. Terrence Smith, CBS News, Washington.
Muammar Gaddafi says he expects to get along better with President George Bush than he has with President Reagan. In an interview Sunday with the Gannett News Service, the Libyan leader said if he can just get through till the inauguration, he expects the White House under Bush to be, quote, very sane, very wise.
وينبغي أن ندفن السياسة الحمراء. Silly and stupid policy with the previous government, previous administration. I think during the next few days things will ease off. If we keep control of our nerves for the next 2 weeks, we keep our nerves cool for the next 2 weeks.
The Soviet Union has agreed to get all its troops out of Afghanistan by February, but today a Kremlin diplomat said there is a, quote, serious danger that it won't happen by then. The Soviet official blamed the United States for continuing to arm the Afghan rebels. A White House spokesman said the U.S. still expects the Soviets to be out on time.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. Do you understand?
The Subaru XT6 has a powerful 6-cylinder engine, computerized full-time 4-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
The Subaru XT6, Sport Magazine's Super Bowl MVP award.
Along with the fiber, are you getting something extra in your high-fiber cereal? All of these cereals contain sodium and added sugar. Fiber One, however, is low in sodium and has absolutely no added sugar. And you get more fiber in Fiber One. So get more of the fiber your body needs and less of the stuff it doesn't. Get Fiber One.
I need home cooking.
Okay, try Swanson's home-style lasagna entree. Spicy tomato sauce, 3 layers of pasta, choice beef and cottage, ricotta, and mozzarella cheeses.
Can we see a replay on that?
I don't know.
What's missing in these new special request soups from Campbell's?
I don't know.
Want to guess?
I don't know.
About 1/3 of the salt.
That's what Campbell's soups are. Good.
Just over a month after he becomes president, George Bush will travel to Japan for the funeral of Emperor Hirohito. The White House announced tonight that Mr. and Mrs. Bush will head the U.S. delegation at the funeral in Tokyo, February 24th. The United States and Canada share as friends the world's longest undefended border. But there are troubled waters between the two nations tonight. That's because of an oil spill that occurred last month when a tug collided with a barge off the Washington state coast. John Blackstone is covering the story of the big spill.
The oil that spilled in American waters is now washing up on some of Canada's wildest natural beaches. Residents of Canada's Vancouver Island are outraged.
It's just not fair.
Canadian government ministers inspected some of the fouled beaches and are considering sending in military men and equipment to help in the cleanup.
That's a bird. I counted 40 of them at 800 feet yesterday.
Thousands of birds have already been killed, and there are fears that shellfish, seals, and even migrating whales could be threatened.
What the hell's going to happen when the gray whales come next month to filter feed on the bottom here?
For more than 2 weeks, cleanup crews have been working along the Washington coast to contain the damage, but stormy seas have turned what first appeared to be a small problem into a big problem. Perhaps the most damaging oil spill ever in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, it is the worst oil spill in terms of damage to bird and wildlife.
The oil spilled from a barge being towed off the Washington coast just before Christmas. At first, it seemed most of the heavy oil would sink out to sea, but winds and tides have carried the spill onto beaches from Newport, Oregon, halfway up Canada's Vancouver Island. Birds from all along the Washington coast are being taken for cleaning to an emergency bird hospital set up right after the spill.
Well, it moves the feathers up and down. It's like brushing your teeth.
300 volunteers have been cleaning birds every day for 2.5 weeks. 3,000 birds have come through the hospital, but so far only 100 have been declared healthy enough to be set free again. Many of the affected beaches on both sides of the border are remote and almost inaccessible. It may be weeks before the full extent of the damage is known. John Blackstone, CBS News, Seattle.
June Allison for Depend.
Enjoying life is so much easier when you have the best bladder control protection. New Depend undergarments has special layers of absorbency that won't bunch or sag, and elastic legs for a better fit. It's simply the best protection you can get. More people trust Depend, and you can too. Get back into life.
Get back into life with Depend.
I really love my fruit and fibre.
That's fruit and fiber.
Fruit and fibre. With exotic tropical fruit. Can't you see? It says right there. F-I-B-R-E, fibre.
But it's still pronounced fiber.
No, mon ami. Not within this pact. With romantic tropical fruit, we have sweet pineapple, crispy coconut, banana, and high fibre flakes.
Watch my lips. Fiber.
Watch mine. Yum, yum.
Post fruit and fiber cereal with tropical fruit. Tastes so good, you forget the fiber.
With arthritis, there's pain. And then there's pain. For relief, there's aspirin. And then there's Anacin. The Anacin aspirin formula has more medicine than regular aspirin.
That's not relief. That's relief.
Anacin.
phone calls, deadlines, stomach complaints, my job, and my Lanta 2.
Double strength Mylanta 2 with nearly double the acid neutralizing power of any leading regular strength brand.
Because my life takes my Lanta 2.
Japan is expected to formally announce Thursday that it will maintain for another year its restraints on automobile exports to the United States. And that announcement will be welcomed by U.S. automakers. But it comes as auto workers find themselves traveling a hard new road, concerned about directions mapped by their own union. Frank Courier reports.
Amid the flash and sparkle of the new 1989 models, U.S. automakers are on a roll. With record profits and more horsepower, they feel they've turned the corner after nearly a decade of decline and mediocrity.
I think people are going back to buying American, and that's a good thing.
But with the rebound of the auto industry comes a growing, restless discontent among many workers who build the cars. Workers frustrated by new management strategies aimed at cutting costs and hiking output, who feel their union is too friendly with car makers. It's the dark side to the new competition.
You get older and you slow down, so it's kind of hard to keep up. Speed, line speed. The long hours, the line speed, it's a constant stress.
21-year veteran auto worker Gary Major builds Ford Escorts and is part of the backlash against what some call management by stress. In human costs, it's measured by plant speed-ups, layoffs, and forced overtime.
You just feel like, why bother? You almost feel like just giving up.
Some of the rank-and-file rumblings center on the so-called Japanese team concept in assembly plants, replacing individual auto workers with group decision-makers.
Instead of one worker on an assembly line doing one monotonous job, a team, cross-trained in many skills, functions together, monitoring and critiquing each other's performance, looking for ways to speed output.
What management wants is to get more work out of fewer people at less cost.
I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but that is kind of shaky when I know that the guy working next to me is trying to figure out a way to put me on the street so he can keep his job.
As far as the team concept, they can stick it.
The kind of potential backlash we're seeing in the automobile industry isn't just a few disgruntled workers who don't want to work hard in the global economy.
It is thousands of workers who feel threatened from both sides, the company and the union. After making concessions to the auto industry, rebels are challenging the United Auto Workers Union and its new policy of cooperating instead of confronting car makers.
Management and the local union is in bed.
I think we've all learned, the union and ourselves, that this business of working together really is a better way to go.
We're trying to work a little closer to solve the problems so we don't lose more membership, so we don't lose more good-paying American jobs, and that's what we lost, good-paying American jobs.
UAW President Owen Bieber has hailed the new cooperation as essential to America's restaking claim to #1 quality and output. But others predict it will fail without trust and respect from workers.
You can't force-feed the workers in the new system. They have to accept it with their eyes wide open and have to try it, have to experiment. If you try to force it upon the workers, it simply will not succeed.
With workers like Gary Major frustrated by the strain of relearning how to build cars and his union forming new alliances in a struggle to save jobs, experts warn that American industry running on fast forward must take time to assess the human cost of competition in a global economy. Frank Courier, CBS News, Flat Rock, Michigan.
Major setback for the government today in a test case of its prosecutions for Wall Street insider trading, crime, and corruption. A federal judge in New York has declared a mistrial in the stock manipulation case against GAF Chemical Corporation and the GAF executive. The judge ruled that government failure to disclose possible tampering with a piece of evidence was unfair to the defense. Rudolph Giuliani, the U.S. attorney in charge of the insider trading and many other recent high-publicity prosecutions, resigned today. There's speculation Giuliani may become a Republican candidate for New York governor or possibly mayor of New York City.
You've been watching
watching me for years now. Don't you think it's time you join me on a Carnival cruise? Come on! More people are taking vacations on Carnival. Because when you take a Carnival cruise, all your shipboard fun's included in one terrific price. All your nighttime entertainment's included. All your food's included too. Plus fantastic tropical ports of call. So on your next vacation, take a 3, 4, or 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
Honey, great news. I don't need surgery for my hemorrhoids. The doctor said they're not that serious.
Well, what did he say?
He told me to eat right, get some exercise, and when they act up, use Preparation H.
Thousands of doctors distribute this hemorrhoidal care guide. It advises a fiber-rich diet, exercise, and for flare-ups, try Preparation H for effective therapy against hemorrhoidal symptoms.
Aren't you glad you didn't need surgery?
Preparation H, also a new cream.
If you're looking for oat bran, all oatmeal is not created equal. One serving of total oatmeal has 10 times the nutrition of old-fashioned Quaker oats, and now more oat bran, too. Total oatmeal, more oat bran, total nutrition.
Gas pain, bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
Will U.S. construction of the world's biggest atom smasher in Waxahachie, Texas be ruined by one of the world's tiniest critters? Are critics making a mountain out of an anthill? Billions of dollars and thousands of jobs are riding on the answers. James Hattori looks tonight at the science and politics of the superconducting super collider, the fire ants of Texas, and why the state of Illinois is so bugged.
The North Texas prairie stretches for countless empty miles, but up close it is filled with pesky fire ants. They're attracted to warm climate and, strangely, fields of electrical energy. So if the government puts its proposed super collider, the world's biggest electromagnet here, North Texas could become as irresistible as a giant picnic lunch.
The place is run over with fire ants.
Illinois is run over with bitterness after the Fermi Nuclear Lab near Chicago lost in its bid for the super collider. State officials claim politics tilted the decision in Texas's favor. Now they hope the trail of fire ants will lead to reconsideration.
I think they should reverse the decision and do the right thing and award it on the basis of merit, not politics.
Texas is one of 11 southern states infested with fire ants. They're notorious for invading homes and farms, inflicting painful stings, and even getting into electrical equipment and wiring. Ronnie Mears fixes air conditioners clogged with fire ants.
Most of the time it'll just drop the unit out completely.
Texas A&M researchers have proven that electricity attracts fire ants, but they say the super collider won't have much effect on them, and with a little pesticide and planning, the ants won't much bother the super collider.
I think it's a lot about nothing. If you know the problems are there, you can deal with the problem.
Texans view the controversy as a last-chance ploy to grab their $4.5 billion plum.
The fire ant issue is going to have a whole lot less sting than Illinois might hope that it would.
Federal officials are aware of the infestation. They say it won't affect their site decision. In the eyes of Texans, the issue is settled. No ifs, ands, or buts. James Hattori, CBS News, Waxahachie.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
This is CBS.